Hello there, and welcome to the Archive in Between, where I read stories collected from across the dimensions. Take a subscription so you can find me again if you wander off. Today's story is called Requiem, and it's part of a series of short stories called The Guilty King, by an author whose name does not bear pronunciation. Don't get close, child. Set the food down there. Meredith hobbled forward a few feet from her mother and set the tray down on the ground. Sitting on it were a few plates of various foods, a hearty meal for one so deserving, but the man for whom it was meant didn't budge. Sat on a stone bench, facing out towards the sea, the armor-clad hero of the Vale, hunched over, propped up by the hilt of his nicked and damaged sword. Where once was a head of jet-black hair was now a tangled mess of gray that swayed in the oceanic breeze. "Meredith," called out April, her mother. "Come, it's time to go home." The little girl hesitated to leave, watching the sulking figure's shoulders rise and fall with each slow, tired, anguished breath. She took a step forward, leveraging a shaky hand to reach out to the hero, but she drew herself away at her mother's behest, turning and rejoining her as she let the hero be. The next day, Meredith returned, compelled by April to retrieve the tray. When she arrived at the cliffs where the hero resided, the child found the food untouched by human hands. Instead, a bevy of ants crawled across the once edible food, harvesting pieces of meat and bread and various vegetables to return to their hives. Some had even made the mistake of drowning in the lentil soup, their legs curled as if they tried to grip onto something that would magically appear to take them to safety. Meredith spent some time flicking the ants away from the tray, shooing them off so she could take it without the risk of being bitten. The hero never moved. In the evening, she would return with the tray. A few plates of food sat atop it. Setting it down just feet away from the bench, she turned and started to leave when she caught herself. She pivoted back around to see the hero seemingly gazing out towards the sea, watching the sunset, his body completely still. It was then that she found the courage to speak to him. "Sir?" The hero didn't respond, and it prompted Meredith to inch closer, calling out to him yet again. "Mister, I just wanted to say..." But as she gathered the nerve and circled around the bench to face the hero, what she saw stopped her in her tracks. The hero of the Vale's lifeless steel-blue eyes stared into the dirt, and the color in his face was gone, replaced with tear-streaked, pallid flesh. His grip on the ruby-encrusted hilt of his sword was loose, and yet he still held on even beyond his twilight moments. In his other hand, a book was on the precipice of fleeing his grip, ready to meet the unjust weight of gravity and the sudden stop of the earth. There was no movement in his chest. There was no movement at all. Meredith gasped and clutched both hands to her mouth, speeding away from the bench and from the still hero. As she called out to her mother, to anyone that would hear her, the book in the dead man's grip finally fell, snapping open as its spine hit the ground and opening to an earmarked page that bore the words April and Meredith would soon read. "Let it be known that, when I do meet death, I will do so with a broken heart. I have lost everything dear to me. Such was the sacrifice I was chosen to make. Were it not for giving up these precious moments, these cherished memories of the people for whom I felt most fond, I would have died content in my castle, surrounded by the legacy I built. But fate is not kind. Fate is cruel. Fate is a destroyer. Fate is a damnable sentence that only a chosen few must carry out. I did all I could, and succeeded where others had failed. But those failures are losses that have weighed on my heart with a far greater burden than I should have ever known. To Hanold, I misjudged you. I thought you an immature peon, destined to usurp me, only to be crushed under the weight of responsibility. But I was wrong. You grew into your own and became a competent and capable leader. I was proud to fight at your side, and seeing you fall to the hordes of the guilty king shattered me deeply. Even as you were consumed by the coming tide of his armies, You did so with an arrogant smile, as if to defy the inevitability of his oppression to the bitter end. We did not deserve you. To Panem, you were wiser than I expected. The intelligence you displayed was leagues beyond my own, and without you, I wouldn't have known the world in such an intimate way. The cultures that existed beyond my doorstep were mere fiction to me until I met you. I only wished I could have protected you from the clutches of that mind snare. Had I the means, it would have been me instead of you. May the roots you've left behind blossom anew. To Cartha, where there was darkness, you were a beacon of hope. Your sense of humor was unmatched in all the realms, and your ability to think on your feet earned you the title of Riskwalker. I will never forget when you introduced me to Mathurma, how he forged anew the weapons we would use to stand steadfast and firm against the guilty king. I searched everywhere for you when the war was over. Part of me still hopes that you're out there, that your optimism is still giving light to the world. People like you are necessary. To Oliren, your caution saved us myriad times, and for that, I owed you my life. We all did. We talked very little throughout our adventures, but you served as a trusted confidant when I needed words of encouragement. I only wished you were there with us when we faced the guilty king once and for all. You should have seen it. We were amazing. And finally, to Ren, I loved you. Losing you hurt the most, but not to worry. I think I'll be joining you soon. If you read this, stranger, know that the life of a hero is a life of loss. Know that you must shoulder a burden that few others can hardly bear, and that the weight will become nearly endless. As heroes, that is a consequence of our bravery, of our duty to the realms that rely on us. When we take that silent oath, we sign away our personal freedoms. We owe ourselves to the world, and we must give freely. This life has brought me the utmost happiness, and it has brought me the deepest pain. And, in a heartbeat, I would do it all again. Signed, Velmir. Thanks for stopping by and listening to the story. Take a subscription. It'll lead you back if you get lost, and it'll let you know when I'm ready to read again. I look forward to seeing you then.